Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
How many of you in here have ever had tetanus, whooping cough, polio, rubella, measles, mumps, or any other kind of horrible disease? Chances are not very many of you. But if any of you go back about a decade or so, there's probably a lot more people that have had affiliation with those diseases because they were a lot more common. The reason for this is because as medical research advances, we get more vaccines to help solve these problems. I think all vaccines should be given to children whenever they are ready for them. But some don't agree. And why is this? Two of the main reasons that people don't think that children should be vaccinated is because they claim that it causes autism, or they say other side effects come along with it. Now, these seem to be misunderstandings that I will go deep into and explain how these aren't really true. Also, there's a lot of great positive aspects of getting vaccines. Before we can really understand why vaccines are so argumentative, we have to understand the history. Edward Jenner, an English physician and scientist and studier of vaccinology, in 1796 gave cowpox to a 13-year-old boy to help prove that there was a vaccine for chickenpox. Later on, Louis Pasteur, a French biologist, experiments has led to the cholera vaccine. And some of these vaccines are still being used today in practically their same form. Not much has changed. Of course, there have been tons of experiments to prove that they are safe and there aren't as many side effects, but they're practically still the same. According to the Immunization Advisory Center, Jonas Edward Stock, an American of medical research, found the polio vaccine. This took him about 35 years to master and get to where it was safe to give to people. This proves that these vaccines are very, very, very studied to make sure that there's nothing harmful about them. And polio is now practically eradicated. We don't see it very much at all, especially not in first world countries where this vaccine is given out a lot. In the last 2 decades, the application of immunology, microbiology, and genetics has been applied and made these vaccines safer and more effective. One of the main arguments as to why people claim that they shouldn't vaccinate children is that they claim that it causes autism. And while this can be very frightening to some, it doesn't have a whole lot of evidence to back it up. How this started was Andrew Whitfield, a discredited British doctor and anti-vaccine activist, published an article called The Lancelot. This was a study in 1989 where 8 out of 12 parents claimed that the vaccine that they were giving caused their children to get autism. But there wasn't any proof. It was just these parents claiming the fact. This caused the U.S. Congress to call on the U.S. Health Department of Human Services to do a massive study on the MMR vaccine, or the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. According to Scott Ratzel, a member of the U.S. Institute of Medicine, the so-called evidence that was found was just that these 8 parents said that this was the cause. There wasn't actually any evidence. They said that the vaccine caused bowel disease and regressive autism, which is the loss of brain function and they couldn't communicate as well. As these tests went on, they were actually never able to recreate this thing. The parents pretty much never again said that this was what caused the autism. It was just this one study that said it did. And as I said, the doctor who claimed these studies were true was later discredited. Another main argument as to why people don't get vaccines is they say that it leads to other injuries, and all around the world, people are getting sicker. And once again, this doesn't have a whole lot of background to it. People actually aren't getting sicker. The life expectancy is going up and has been going up in a regular pattern pretty much over the decades. Not only that, but the infant and child mortality rate is going down. And this isn't just in first world countries like America, this is pretty much all over the world. It's just not true that the world is getting sicker. According to Brian Greenwood, a faculty member of the Infectious Diseases and Tropical Diseases in London, it isn't just us that seem to be not getting sicker, it's the entire world, as I said. All vaccines are also tested extensively. And when I say extensively, I mean there has to be at least 3 levels of safety and effectiveness before they're even tested on human people. If there are any side effects at all, it's tested more. We aren't allowed to give it out. Now, there are some moderate side effects that are known, such as soreness in the spot of the injection, a cold or cold-like symptoms such as a runny nose, coughing, sneezing, stuff like that, or a slight fever, but usually these go away fairly quickly. Any more serious side effects are always taken to U.S. Congress and studied more frequently. But there are some children who can't get the vaccine because their immune system isn't strong enough. The benefits of vaccines aren't just for the people that are getting them. As I said, some children can't get the vaccine. And in order to protect them, other people have to get this vaccine. Vaccines help our immune system become stronger and respond better to these diseases. They don't actually overload our immune system. All vaccines carry a low number of antigens, which are the germs that cause the immune system to respond. This tiny amount of antigens help to get the immune system to fight back against these antigens in the future and as the small number was given. But enough people, as I said, have to be vaccinated for it to even be effective. The measles vaccine is not completely eradicated, but for the most part, it's gone. The only time that we see it is when people aren't vaccinated and they unwillingly bring it from somewhere where it's not as uncommon. If you look at your handouts, you'll see that from the time that the vaccine was started to be given out, it went majorly down. But those small bumps is when it's unwillingly brought from somewhere else, or there was that time when the study from the Lancelot was produced, that people stopped getting the vaccines because they were frightened. That's where that bigger jump came, because people didn't get the vaccine and the measles came back. If you'll turn those over. Nicole Kleen, a director of the Kaiser Vaccine Study Center, says that measles are extremely contagious, but as long as 92% of the population has the vaccine, there's a pretty good chance that it won't spread. Now, this isn't the same for all vaccines because measles is extremely contagious, so the rate is lower than others. By getting a vaccine, we prevent the spread to others around us that have the vaccine and the people who don't because their immune system isn't strong enough to get the vaccine. To quote Kleen, "To protect everyone who can't be vaccinated, the rest of us should be up to date to our vaccines." Some of us might have kids now, and some of us don't, but we might someday. So it's important for us to have our vaccines so that we can better protect our children and hopefully get our children vaccinated in the future, because it is important. All children should be vaccinated, and if they aren't, they can be endangering themselves and others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything else? Thank you, Karson.